First, I want to give a content warning. We are going to go over some violence, police violence. So trigger warning, content warning. If it's going to make you feel upset in any way, go ahead and just move on to the next video. Make sure you follow us on your way out, though. But okay, Madison, Wisconsin. There was a police killing yesterday, and there were no body cams, but it was in broad daylight. So this is one of the few times that we get to see it from multiple angles, and it is horrible. So again, I'm going to give you a warning. I'm going to show you the first angle because it has sound, and then the second one without. And then I'll tell you what we know and what is going on now. Okay. PG Newsroom, post the first one. All right. Where did it go? There it is. Share screen. All right, you ready? This is just 10. This one is just 7 seconds. You ready, Steve?
Do it.
Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. It is so horrific. It is so horrific. There is another one, another angle. And I'm showing it because, like, I think, again, like, this is just, they don't have body cameras. So, and okay, I'll get more into it because I talked a little bit with a local organizer and they asked me to like share some things that they want people to broadly understand. Okay, so Lavish had another angle. That is a fucking, yes. That is a execution. That is an execution.
Where that is an execution. Yeah, they executed them, man.
So this, first of all, they say that he had a knife and stabbed him. He literally shoots him 3 times in the head and kicks him on the first shot. And then they fucking cuff him. They fucking cuff him. It is so brazen. And the fact that none of them have body cameras and this would have happened without witnesses. Like, I truly have no words. It's so horrific. It's so horrific. Okay, so the issue is, let me find the, so I'll tell you what the police say happened. And even we know the police version is going to be so sanitized in their favor. And even their version is like, this is so horrible. Corey Ruiz. Where was the plea? I read it earlier. Oh, this one? Okay. So what the police say, well, first of all, they talk about this. It happened like on the same street where previous police killing happened. And that's what I want to get into more because the community really wants people to understand this is a serious issue in the Madison Police Department. And we need to be demanding like full, like we need to change the whole thing. So the fact that he's even like recognized like the historical trauma, it's like, cool. That doesn't mean you've done anything about it. The police responded to a call concerning a person who was apparently checking parked vehicles. Steve,
wait, what checking?
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So the fact that this was a response concerning a person apparently checking parked vehicles.
That was my question. Does it apparently checking parked vehicles? What does that mean?
They literally could have just left him alone. They literally could have just left him alone. Like, it is so infuriating.
He could have been looking at himself in the mirror like I do when I walk by parked vehicles on my way to a thing. I could just be like, oh, hey, look, I just got a thing on my, like, it's pretty normal behavior. It's normal behavior. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm pissed off because the obituary says, great guy, loving, troubled. It's like, what is it? That's how anybody would describe me or you or anybody. It's such bullshit. Why are you using the adjective troubled? Who isn't troubled? He was checking
Yeah.
parked vehicles as horseshit. I look at parked vehicles all the time because I need to get a reflection. You know, sometimes I'm walking past a parked vehicle to look at the mirror to make sure nobody's going to hit me.
And
It's
even
normal.
if he was checking them to steal, why are you putting fucking property above a human fucking life? So they're like, he fled on a bicycle. Who fucking cares? You could have just let him flee.
He didn't flee. He didn't flee from anything. He left. He left. There's nothing to flee from.
He wasn't
leaving. Committing a fucking crime.
They had no reason. They didn't need to stop him. Like, it's fucking insane. So then they caught up with him. He either fell off or was taken off the bicycle, which I'm going to assume he was fucking taken off the bicycle. They say that he produced a fixed blade knife, maybe because there were 4 fucking cops on top of him, if that is even true, which we don't know. And then one of the officers fired his weapon multiple times in his head. The officer is described as a veteran who was the only one.
What does a veteran have to do with? You can see the political Zamboni work they're trying to do. In case they rule it as a quote, there's no such thing as a good shooting, but police will say it's a bad shooting. They're going to say he was a veteran, he had PTSD. What about that kid? He didn't have PTSD. That guy didn't have PTSD from watching cops beat the shit out of people that look exactly like him and or execute him. They literally had a guy standing on a cop's back 5 years ago for 10 minutes, so long that he couldn't breathe. You don't think that he has PTSD, that he's a veteran of something that's traumatic and horrifying? Why does it? What? Sorry.
So this no. Yeah, no, it's upsetting. It's upsetting. But what I think where this is important is not only did he see, I mean, police killings in America are rampant. There have been 6 days this year, 2026, where the police have not killed somebody. But what this local organization wanted me to know, because I saw that they are hosting tonight's vigil and that they're it's like the Milwaukee Bail. Let me find them. The Milwaukee or the Wisconsin Bail Out the People movement. They said what's really important for people to know is that this is something that is a major, major problem in Madison. And that cops also are killing people behind closed doors. Kevin Price is somebody who was killed by Fitchburg police in August 2024. After calling 911 for help, he was shot 3 times in the chest in his own home. So there's one. Let me pull him.
Oh, you're going to share it?
Yeah, Kevin Price, police killing. Okay. I'll share these, but I just want to make sure that like there is every reason for him to be scared already, but especially when people are saying that this is a huge issue in the community, like we need to take that into consideration. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The thing I was angry about is that, you know, you can see them trying to like lay the groundwork for like saying, oh, the cop was a veteran and therefore he had, and then you can say, oh, well, he had PTSD. But like the thing that people, first of all, I'm not an expert at this, but my late great aunt Aphrodite did write a book called Vietnam Wives, which is one of the first and most important studies of PTSD and how PTSD affected spouses of people that suffered from it. And I've been diagnosed with that. And like the thing about PTSD is that you don't need to just be in a war to get it. I've never been exposed to violence, but I have it from other reasons. Like, and the important thing about it is that it creates a fight or flight reaction in you that you have a natural, it's like you feel like you're in danger, even though you may not be in danger. So if somebody who is somebody of color, like Corey Ruiz, has been surrounded by systemic violence by people that are wearing uniforms,
generational trauma
exactly, generational trauma, everything that's ever happened to him, anybody he knows, not to mention everything he always sees in the news, which includes finding a way to rationalize the behavior of these people that are committing these crimes, aka the police, to suggest that a police officer is more entitled to a trauma response than someone that is powerless is egregious. And it is
Mm-hmm.
totally bullshit for the mainstream
Yeah.
media to try and sanitize that cop's behavior, because they never, ever ask if a victim has PTSD. And especially in underrepresented communities, because they don't have access to public health care and mental health. So there is probably a disproportionate amount of undiagnosed PTSD in communities of color. So it's definitely underreported, and they never talk about it with victims, and it really pisses me off.
Right. No, exactly all of that. So this is one case that they wanted to bring attention to. 28-year-old Kevin Price called 911 asking for help. He said, "There's an issue. We have no contact orders. We saw each other, and then he tried to break my neck." They said, "Where did this happen?" And the caller said, "You know what? Never mind. There's whatever." So caller hangs up, dispatcher calls back, someone answers but doesn't say anything. 43, oh my God. 3 officers show up to the area. They say a neighbor tells them a couple was fighting inside the apartment. Fitchburg police say a man inside charged officers with a knife. 7 minutes later, the call log shows an officer shot that man in the apartment 3 times in his chest. It turns out he is the one who made the 911 call for help in the first place. There's each one of these photos of a beautiful person, an entire life that should be still here, each precious Black life stolen by the police in the Madison area in the last few years. Please think deeply about what this means and how their entire lives have been stolen from them and from their children, family, and loved ones. Each stolen life is a whole person who should be alive and here at home. To see the false narratives and lies and attempts to criminalize and dehumanize and justify the murder and execution of these beautiful lives, every single person should be alive and here and home, and this should have never happened. Justice for each life stolen. Each precious Black life stolen by police, agents of terror and violence and racism and white supremacy, they must be stopped. I would do anything to bring them back. Anything. Each one of these victims, I don't know if it's repeated, but justice for Rashad, Ajaya, Aaron, Kevin, Corey, Richard, Christopher, Elliot, Rodney, Brandon, Tony, and each of these precious lives stolen by killer cops and violence workers. So I just really want to make sure to amplify this. I don't want it to get lost. We have a moment to bring attention to Madison right now while it's happening, and I just want to make sure that we give it time. So here, follow these guys. And yeah, looks like they do a lot of good community work. Yeah, so that is what we know so far. It's horrible. It's horrible.
So
Thoughts?
It just I have a complicated relationship with this topic because I worked in we watched my thing, the Copaganda. I worked on a cop show, and I know a lot of cops, and I also think that, and they are good guys, and I also think that the institution of police is evil. I think that the police force and the fact that you are weaponizing working class people to imprison and kill other working class people is inherently evil and needs to be dismantled. And you cannot have good apples in a bad system. Like you can have good people, but that it doesn't mean that they're not when they're wearing, that doesn't mean that when they're wearing, I never met them when they were wearing a uniform, right? I never met them. Yeah. I don't like, and so like, but I mean, ACAB, because if you're wearing a uniform, it's like,
well, here's where I say
they may never speak to me again for saying that, but like the truth of the matter is that it's very clear what has happened with the military. Like this is what the police force was built to do, going back to when its modern inception, which was slavery, which was enslaved people. And this is what police, so again, it doesn't matter. It's just, it's fundamentally wrong.
Yes. And this is where I hear, well, first I'm going to like pull up some, I just don't want to get anything wrong, but the history of policing in America is very fascinating. But this is where I say I am hard on systems, soft on people. So when I say ACAB, I'm saying ACAB. And also that I do understand that there are conditions that would make it because the system makes it so that they need people to end up being cops. They need people to end up being military. They need people to end up being able to do its dirty work. So still ACAB. And also I understand that the system itself pumps people out and creates them, conditions them. And I don't take that away from the humanity of it. And still fucking ACAB. Okay, history.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, but that's a perfect dialectic. Like that, I completely agree with everything you just said. Like, it's like, I know, like I said, a lot of the cops I knew were good people to me. I don't know what they were like when they were police officers. I don't, but I feel.
And also, yes, you're a white man. You're not going to ever have the same
white guy. That's the thing. And like, honestly, I've been in situations where police have approached me and treated me differently because I was a white guy. Like, can I tell you a quick story of a perfect example of white privilege?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was on LaSalle Street in 2018. I'll never forget it. And there were 3 dudes. There was a kid, a black kid, he was 15 or 16. And he was surrounded by 4 dudes who were basically trying to beat him up, like punch him, like in a group. And so what I did was I went into the middle of LaSalle Street and I stood between the kid and the 4 guys. And they were basically punching each other. And I kept like getting hit in the head kind of because basically for me, I just saw it was like 4 white guys versus 1 black kid. Right. And then the cops came. Okay. And the cops are like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. That's not my job, but it was 4-on-1. Okay. And then they said, well, that kid, somebody says that kid stole a phone. And I said, well, I didn't see that. And frankly, I didn't see him do anything except almost get his ass kicked by 4 people. So I was like, and he's like, well, you saved him. Why don't you go ask him if he has the phone? And I was like, no. I said, I'm not going to ask him shit. I'm going to tell him to go get a lawyer.
Again, property over people. First, why don't you go make sure he's fucking okay? What the fuck?
Because he was just about to get his ass. He was just getting his ass kicked. And then and then he was swinging back over my head. And I just kind of stayed between him and like kept my hands down because I was like, everybody needs to just like, whatever's happening is happening. I was like, but no one's going to let this guy go because all this stuff. And I'm like, you guys are like, the first thing you ask about is this lady's phone, and then you want me to go use what little trust he has in any of us to see if he can go convict himself of a fucking crime? And I'm like, no, fuck you. And I told the guy, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, okay, well, this lady got punched in the head. And I was like, I didn't see him do shit. I saw him about to get his ass kicked by 4 people, and this is your job to figure it out. And just because the kid was about to get his ass kicked, and you got called doesn't mean that he did it. So I left. And then I went to a fundraiser for my friend who lost her son in gun violence. So we helped her start a C3. And she's a wonderful lady. And one of the police officers that worked on the show was there. And he's like, how have you been? I'm like, like red rock. And then I saw the responding officer there that I told off because he was working off duty. And he's like, you know this guy? And then the guy I was talking to was like, yeah, I know this guy's crazy. And he's like, oh, I know he's crazy, but I didn't know you knew him. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? But it's because you know what I mean? That's what it has to do with everything. Because I'm a white guy who knows another white guy who happens to be a cop.
And that is how the whole system protects itself. That's how the whole fucking system is set up to protect white men and protect policing, because policing is essential to capitalism.
It's the cell phone over the kid. It's the cell phone over the kid. And listen, I used to work in high schools. I used to work in middle schools. I used to work in elementary schools. God bless teachers. But I know so many 16-year-old kids. And honestly, not a single one of them. I've not met a sociopath. I met one kid that was a sociopath, diagnosed as that, and it was abundantly clear. But there is not one kid I didn't know that did something stupid because they weren't afraid. Because they weren't afraid. And if it's just bullshit. It's bullshit, and the privilege thing is real, and all of these assholes that are like, oh, when I grew up, it's like, shut the fuck up. It's not 1970. Sorry, it just pisses me off. It pisses me off because it's the same people who complain about Lupita Nyong'o doing a great performance of Helen of Troy.
I want to see that so badly.
Me too. Sorry, I don't mean to go off on such a tangent, but like, is that what you mean by white privilege? Like, because it's like when a white dude's like,
well, yeah, it's a level of power that cannot be taken away from you that other people do not have. It's your proximity to power. It's like the assumption of innocence. Yeah. And, you know, just the fact that, white privilege shows up in so many ways. I'm not going to break the whole thing down, but yeah, that is an example.
Well, the fact that you're safe enough to run into danger, even though that the cops may be coming, is white privilege. Like, that's me, like, because, like, that's white privilege, right? Like, going to see some stupid shit go down and then go, hey, maybe I can help. But it's not, I'm not afraid of the cops coming up and shooting me because of, and, like, I'm sorry, but, like, that's true. Like, I don't know that it's bad, but it's just true. Like,
yeah. So for people who don't really understand the origins of modern day policing, I have this NAACP history of policing I'll go over real quick, and then we can go into McCarthy trials. But so slave patrols.
McCarthy to our next segment.
You're gonna say it to the next one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we should listen. We should read this because this is a good history.
Yes. So here's the North Carolina
time, right? Mag, sorry, I get angry.
No, you're good. I, patrollers named, do swear that I will, as searcher for guns, swords, and other weapons among the slaves in my district, faithfully and as privately as I can, discharge the trust reposed in me as the law directs to the best of my power, so help me God. The slave patrols continued until the end of the Civil War and the passage of the 13th Amendment. Then slave patrols were replaced by militia-style groups who were empowered to control and deny access to equal rights to freed slaves. They systematically enforced black codes. Black codes were like, if you're black, you have to have a job, or they could pick you up for not having a job. They could pick you up for looking at someone funny, for trying to shake a white person's hand, like anything, not having an address, being unhoused. And then that would put people back into the plantations because plantations became penitentiaries. Then when black codes were abolished, Jim Crow laws came up. And so then the police were used to enforce Jim Crow laws. And that is just always, like, this has never changed. It is such a poisonous system. And I just really hope that people take this as a moment to shed light on the fact that policing in America is just as fucking bad as ICE in America. And like we have to start hitting all forms of criminalization. And we need to start practicing abolition. So yeah, that is my little spiel.